Hey, welcome to another video from Skinny Medic. I wanted to chime in on the active shooter subject, and what most people are covering right now is actually the operator, the hunter who's going after the active shooter, which you actually absolutely need. But this is going to be a different type video. This is going to be providing medical care and providing help to these patients that are involved in this active shooter. So there's three things that need to happen in an active shooter event, and they may have different priorities depending on the event and depending on your situation. Number one is the shooter needs to be taken care of. They need to be eliminated. The threat needs to be stopped. Number two is you need to start gathering a casualty collection point, meaning all the injured are going to one space, because if you start getting a lot of injured people spread apart, it's really hard to take care of them. So if you can put them in one point, that helps. Now typically what may or may not happen, depending on what building or what scenario is these casualty collection points are going to gather themselves. The injured are going to come together and they're going to start huddling together. So hopefully they start coming together as a point. But if not, you got to start pulling them and making your own casualty collection point. And number three is you need to start evacing. You need to get you out, you need to get patients out. So this is all three need to happen. At what list they come into priority is up to you and the scenario that you're in, or what job your capability of doing is here. So, but you need to stop the threat, get all the injured people in one spot, and then start evacing them out. One of the first problems you're going to run into in an active shooter is the sheer number of patients that you're going to have. Now you're going to have to triage these, and I've done multiple videos on that, triaging patients. But you're injured, obviously the tourniquet that hopefully you have on you, or your EDC medical kit, is for you. So you're not going to have enough medical supplies to treat these patients. You could be dealing with 2 patients to 10 to 20 to 30 patients, even more. So you're not going to have enough medical supplies for this. So you're going to start improvising. Whether this be using belts as tourniquets, using shirts or pressure bandages, pulling stuff off the walls. I mean, you're going to have to really improvise here to provide those medical supplies. I would avoid treating patients in open spaces. This is a huge issue because you're wide open and you're exposed as the first responder, as the medical provider. You're out in the open. So if you can move the patients to cover, will this be around a corner, into a building, into another classroom or another room, but you've got to provide yourself some cover. I talked about the casualty collection points. This is where all your patients are going to come together, hopefully, and you're going to be able to treat them. So you're going to may have start at 1, 2 patients, and then you may end up with 20 or 30 patients. Who knows, depending on the situation it is. So obviously the first thing you got to do is pull patients out of the hallway. I mean, if they're in a hallway, they're in a corridor, that's a death trap. You've got to get them under cover and move them. So you don't want to be in that corridor or that death trap very long. So if you can move patients into classrooms or other round corners, hopefully there's concrete there separating you, but provide some cover so you can start treating these patients. And what I would do if I just had a couple of patients is I would all line them straight up, and then if I was at their head, I could start taking care of that March algorithm, which is massive bleeding, airway, respiratory circulation, heat loss, and head injury. So we can start trying to do that algorithm while we have patients lined up. Now if I start dealing with 20 or 30 patients, I'm going to start trying to make a big circle with all their heads facing me, feet out, and then I can start monitoring as I'm treating this patient. I can kind of glance over, look here, glance over, look there, and look there. So if I have a big circle, I can treat these patients easier. And depending on how big of structure, how big of an event we're dealing with here, you may end up with just one casualty collection point, but you may end up with multiple casualty collection points. So you kind of have to, that's going to all depend on the scenario and the event. So when we talk about triaging patients in this casualty collection point, you've got green tags who are screaming, going nuts, they're walking wounded. If they can walk, they're automatically a green tag. Doesn't matter what's wrong with them. Even if they have a tourniquet on their leg and they can walk with a good leg, they're a green tag at the moment, at the current time. You have black tags, which are dead. They're not breathing, they have no pulse. At this point, they're dead. You have red tags and yellow tags left now. So red tags are, oh my gosh, this patient's getting ready to die any minute now if they don't get help. Yellow tags are, they're really sick, they may die, but not right now. So you have to categorize them, whether you have a Sharpie, write it on their forehead, right? Yellow, red, black, green. You can write a Sharpie, use a Sharpie to help label these patients, to kind of help you keep track of them. Obviously you can use the green tags to help you. You've got to direct them, because they're going to be in panic mode. They're going to be full on just going nuts. So you got to be direct and firm with them. Tell them what you want to do. Tell them you want them to make a bandage or hold pressure on someone. Tell them you want them to help drag a patient into around this corner. So you've got to be direct and firm with them, because someone's going to have to be in charge here, and it's not going to be that green tag who's screaming. If they're a black tag, you leave them where they're at. You don't move them. Don't worry about them. You'll come back for them later. Then you just have to worry about your red and your yellow tags. The red tags, like I said, were, oh my gosh, this patient's fixing to die if I don't fix their airway, if I don't fix their breathing or the circulation. And then the yellow tag is, they may die, but not right now. Now, once we've got the casualty collection point and we're providing that basic care that we can, what little help we can do there, we got to start evacing these patients out. So you've got to be able to move them. So if that means cutting the carpet and making sleds with that so you can pull, or just dragging patients, however you need to, but patients need to start getting evac'd out. Those most serious patients, those red tags that we categorize, we got to start pulling patients out. So those green tags that are walking wounded, guess what they're fixing to do? They're going to help you drag patients out. So you've got to be able to evac patients and move them out. So I hope this video helped. It's a little bit different spin on the active shooter subject, but it's something that's needed, something needs to be talked about. So remember, one is the threat needs to be eliminated. If you still hear gunfire, they are still shooting, there are lives still being taken. So the stop has to be stopped. So you have to go towards the gunfire. You have to eliminate the threat. Then we start getting our patients together, creating that casualty collection point. We're going to triage them. So green tags are walking wounded, black tags are dead, red tags are, oh my gosh, they're getting ready to die, and yellow tags are, oh, they may die, but not right now. So you kind of have to split them apart. Start treating patients. Start stopping the bleeding. Like, you've got to stop the bleeding, whether that's making tourniquets, putting tourniquets on, putting pressure bandages, tell someone to hold pressure. You've got to stop the bleeding. And then we have to start evacuating patients out, moving them to help outside the building. So I hope this video helps. You never know when you'll be the first responder. Remember, you need the right gear and the right training.